But no proof about you burying bodies in a basement with a dirt floor so they slowly dissolve into the soil?
Yeah, no proof whatsoever.
Okay, good. Glad we got
Nobody
that.
can prove a thing because it never got recorded.
That's right.
That's the good thing about. Wait a minute.
I'm Eric Paul Johnson.
And he's now a witness.
Well,
So
come
are the rest of you.
come and get me 1,600 miles away.
I'm too lazy.
And that's why I didn't turn into a serial killer.
I know that's me. I'd be number one. I'm too lazy to stalk people. I really lose interest in them anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with you anymore. Well, fuck now.
What's the point? Yeah.
And yeah, serial killing, that's a full-time job. I already have one of those.
You always got to be watching your back for the cops, for people looking for vengeance. There's a whole lot of manual labor involved.
Exactly.
Digging graves. The screams get old really fast. So, yeah, just
You know how far I have to drive these days to actually get out of the city?
in Phoenix with the sprawl. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I know.
to actually find desert. And then a year later, they dig it up to put houses in.
Yeah, well,
So, yeah.
move out here to Illinois. There's lots of open prairie land. Nobody will find
Yeah.
anything for centuries.
But the mafia's been there forever. So there's no place to, but I'm just dumping another body on top of another body.
That's true. Oh well.
So,
Before we get into comments about Dirty to the Bone, we should do this thing because we should do them at the start of the episode because I had a really great sign off and then Eric was like, "Oh, no, wait." So, on our YouTube channel, the Electric Light Orchestra podcast channel, click the little dingy bell up top, subscribe. I guess the bell will give you notifications for when a new video comes up, when there's a new Zoomcast, when there's a new episode. Um, Give us money at Patreon. Patreon. Yes, Patreon Dom. That's our different site.
yes.
Uh, yeah.
That should have been a domain name.
Things get weird at Patreon Dom. So,
Yeah.
is he dead?
I hope not. It's Snoopy.
Well, I mean, it's kind of about time. I bought this thing about 6 years ago, so I guess it's time that the battery went on it.
Oh.
I think it's patreon.com/ELO pod. Um, why don't you look down there, turn on your closed captioning, and right down there is the Patreon address.
Yeah. Just reminded me of one of my favorite Peanuts episodes.
Hmm.
They put Snoopy to sleep, Charlie Brown.
So we get comments about Dirty to the Bone. Um, I was going to make some comment about later era Charlie Brown in the 90s and how lame it was. And maybe it should have been put to sleep. But we got a lot of comments about Dirty to the Bone. So we should get right to it.
Definitely. Okay. So getting dirty with a bone. Okay. Jim Kahn says, I think that she moves around. Isn't that she has a pulse, but rather the woman gets around, and which isn't a positive thing unless you're a pimp. This is one of a handful of songs on Alone in the Universe that I really enjoy listening to. It sounds more like a track from the Secret Messages era than the Wilburys to my ears. The one thing that grates is the lyrics. Not only do they sound stale, but they don't match the arrangement and melody. That open guitar shimmer in the intros makes me feel like the word stranger should be somewhere in the title. Not a freaking bone. A wasted opportunity, methinks.
Rob Evan. Oh, I got to bring up Bob.
Otherwise, the song is a boner. As in a mistake.
As yes, not as in.
Yes,
Wow, that was so exciting.
There are other meanings of that word.
About that, yeah. Bing. I can't. Can I do single one? Uh, um,
That's when the
okay.
boner doesn't last.
Yeah. Rob Eben. This is my favorite song on Alone in the Universe. The lyrics are a bit cheesy, but the melody and music are fun. Jeff throws in a little cowbell, and like bacon, you can never have too much of that. Well, Madeline would disagree, because lately she has turned away pizza or other kinds of food saying there's too much bacon on it. And I tell her there's no such thing as too much bacon. I mean, for your tongue, for your arteries and your heart, sure, but taste wise, there's no such thing as too much bacon.
True.
Yeah.
Thinking back to the all-you-can-eat breakfast buffets at JB's, where you just take an entire mountain of bacon and one egg.
I'm sure your heart fondly remembers those.
Yep,
Or that,
it
that
does.
or that memory is firmly lodged in your heart.
In my arteries.
Yeah.
E.L.O. Ray says, Rob Evan, exactly. You nailed it. Has all those old E.L.O. tricks on it, slow keyboard chords, background vocals.
Oh, and then dot dot dot. Okay.
Dot, dot,
You're
dot.
done. Maurice Dockrell. Yes. Okay, yeah, I'm reading it right. I have progressive lenses now, and I'm still trying to get used to that. Funny how tastes differ. I don't like it at all, but love the title track. Well, we haven't hit the title track yet, so we'll see what happens with that when we hit it.
Ken Buzzard says, you know what? When listening to Dirty to the Bone, I just realized why it's so odd. The song has no verses, just a chorus repeated 3 times. The verse, what there is, has a call and response pattern that Jeff has used in his songwriting several times before, but the only difference between these verses is the response. The words, and specifically the calls, are identical from start to finish. Don't get me wrong, I still sing along in the shower with gusto when this song plays, but it has always seemed there was something not quite right about it, something lacking or indicative of a shortcut having been taken, and realizing that the song has no verses, just a repeated chorus, is that thing.
I didn't notice that. I guess mostly I was too distracted by the I really hate this song of it.
Yes.
Eric Stewart. My favorite song on this awesome album. Well, good. I'm glad you like it.
Mitch Barloga says sometimes, maybe it's just me, but the disconnect between the lyrics and the melody is jarring. This is a bouncy tune set to Jeff tearing this girl to pieces.
Yeah, I guess. Corey Gomel has a long one, so I will speak for Corey.
Really?
Okay. Corey Gomel has a long comment. I will speak for Corey. Bob will speak for me. This track has been maligned by the Erics, reviewers, and fans alike, but the track deserves a 4th, or 5th, or 45th. Listen. The ear candy starts off almost immediately. That guitar note that drags along the frets is magical. Try listening with really good speakers or headphones. And it repeats. I get ear tingles every time. Then comes the funny juxtaposition of the line from the background singer's She's Dirty to the Bone. A very mean line, sung in such a smooth vanilla milkshake voice. I can just see Eric Idle smiling at this. Then Jeff drops lines over and in between the milkshake singers in an almost whisper that just barely fits the time allotted. The way the whispers are dropped in reminds me of the story of why it took so long to release Latitude 88 North. And the line that Jeff dropped that song, and the line that Jeff dropped that song, it's like, took him 30 years to figure out. Back to Dirty. Then more ear candy. Just perfect. What follows is the in, down, up, and around lines that recalls the Wilburys' Inside Out lyrics. Maybe, just maybe, This was supposed to be the newest dance craze. All we were missing is the couple. All we were missing is the couple from the cover of Doing That Crazy Thing 12-inch single to teach us the steps. As the Dirty to the Bone line comes back, it is greeted with that fret ear candy guitar sound and another treat. Something that sounds like a synthesized xylophone or harp that is repeated throughout the rest of the song. I chalk it up to one of those brilliant naughty bits. Jeff loved to add two songs. I gotta scroll up. It's it's just fantastic. Jeff's guitar solo is subtle, sublime, and perfect. The lyrics, the actual words he sings, are sophomoric, and the need for a writing partner has never been more apparent than it is here. But if, and I know this is a big if, if you can separate the lyrics from the music and the sound of his voice, we have a very good song. I would have liked the song to have gotten the Holiday in Spain rewrite that turned into Livin' Thing. But since that's not going to happen, I'll take it the way it is. And that is a piece of near pop perfection. I listened to it 4, 5, possibly 6 times before doing the episode, and I don't want to listen to it 4, 5, or even one more times. I just don't like it.
No. I don't get a thing out of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that opening guitar thing, I think I forgot to bring it up. If it's just him running down the fretboard, okay, it sounded good. If that's him actually playing all the way down, Jeff has some amazing fingers, because that's a lot of fast fingering to get that sound. So it's impressive if he's actually all the way down.
For the record, I said nothing.
So
Jim Kahn says, agree with this 100%.
Yes. Agreeing with Corey there. Damian Griffin. Oh, and this is our last comment for this one. Okay. Damian Griffin. I don't know. I'm really confused, if I'm being honest. I'm old enough to remember a time when everybody hated time and balance of power, and said so in comments on Showdown. Then Zoom came out, and the haters started liking time and balance of power. Then this album came out. Now everyone loves time and balance of power, with a few exceptions. Maybe Jeff needs to come out with worse albums, and this one will get better. I doubt it. Oh, hang on. He came out with From Out of Nowhere. Now I feel better. Yeah, I know I'll get slammed for this comment. Well, I don't care. I'll just go listen to Time again for the billionth time, pun intended. And just dream of 1981 again. Bliss. As for Balance of Power, maybe after playing Time for a day, then I'll swap over. Yeah, I kind of remember complaints about Time. Oh, it's too robotic. It's too soulless. And in my head, I'm thinking, it's the future. The album is set in the distant future where, as the album points out, a lot of humanity has been stripped away and replaced with machines and sex bots and that kind of thing. So it fits the theme of the album. And I absolutely thought, holy crap, this is the greatest freaking album ever. The first time I heard Time, back in like summer 1982. So I've always loved Time. Balance of Power? It's okay. Has its moments. I don't think I've changed my opinion too much about that one.
I think probably everybody, I could imagine everybody getting upset about Time simply because it sounds different.
Very different. It sounded like nothing else.
Balance of Power was contractual obligation, and yeah. So I don't even think Jeff Lynne expected anybody to really get excited over it, despite calling America being an awesome song. But yeah, Time though was a complete departure from what they'd done before, and at that point it was the early 80s.
Yeah.
He needed to do a complete departure, but luckily didn't do as complete a departure as Neil Young or Jethro Tull and go completely electric and realize that was a bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Under Wraps is still considered the worst Jethro Tull album ever. And there have been some bad ones since then too, but nothing as bad as Under Wraps. And it took forever for those electronic Neil Young albums to end up on CD or be acknowledged by Mr. Young after a long time.
I'm sure. I
Oh,
can't remember them, but I remember hearing that.
New Wave Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the mid 80s was not a good time for, established acts from the 60s and 70s trying to adjust. Um, Billy Joel, what was it? Second Wind? That's a useless song.
That was a bonus track on a greatest hits album, though. That wasn't on a regular album.
No. Um, and then there was Modern Woman, which I'd forgotten all about, and I was curious about while adding Billy Joel stuff to my Apple Music playlist. And I was like, oh, that's got too much wavy, synthy, heavy synthy. And then I think, and there's like, and not just Billy Joel, there's a lot of those, Paul McCartney press, a lot of synthesizer waka 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 going on behind the background.
Yeah.
Starship. And then eventually in the mid 80s, they did their crap and they're like, oh my God, that was crap. That doesn't really sound like me. This sounds like me desperately trying to stay current. And then they went back to, I mean, I don't know the history of Starship or Jefferson Starship, but the others, they went back to, let's do what we're actually good at. And they still sold
Oh,
records that way.
no, Paul Kantner left the band and he owned the Jefferson
Oh, I
part of the
see.
name. And I think Ray Slick or somebody else in there owned the Starship part,
Oh, okay.
or nobody cared about the Starship part. So
Yeah.
it was originally Jefferson Airplane, and then Jefferson Starship was more of an AOR band
Yeah.
doing pop, doing foreigner type stuff. And but then they went to do, yeah, but then he left and they did We Built This City.
And Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. And
Yeah.
a lot of
And
cheesy, synthy 80s.
a couple albums of that, and then Jefferson Airplane got back together for a very disappointing album. And then everybody just, I don't know, I think they might have done a few other things, but yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yeah, nobody cared.
pretty much.
Unfortunately, Paul Kantner, I don't think is with us anymore.
Um,
Grace Slick somehow is.
Grace Slick is, and she has said on quite a few times, don't even bring up that Starship stuff. I'm so embarrassed by that crap. So,
And this is a woman who got drunk, couldn't complete a concert, and called all of Germany Nazis during a concert in Germany.
okay.
So, yeah. And she's more, and it sounds like she's more embarrassed by her Starship stuff than getting drunk and calling an entire country Nazis. Uh,
Probably
so
because
that should
that's,
tell you what that stuff, how much that stuff is loved, even though, hate to admit it, We Built This City is one of those cheesy things I don't mind,
okay.
as long as I don't have to hear it constantly on the in the supermarket.
Yeah. I'm not that lucky.
Yeah. But back to Time, though,
Mm-hmm.
that actually avoided that all that curse. Yeah, if anybody thinks we're gonna start ragging on Time, you better go back and listen to all the stuff that we had to say about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, ELO avoided all that. They did a very modern sounding album, but still made it progressive. In fact, more progressive than some of the stuff they'd done before that,
Yeah.
and it worked.
Um,
It
yeah.
worked wonderfully.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's just in my head, it's always 1981 to 1983, but I don't think Time reeks of dated sounding, like, say, We Built This City or some other things from 1981. I think, I don't know if it's just so welded in my head that this sounds like the future that it's trying to set up, that It doesn't sound like, yeah, that's 1981.
It sounds like it's time, but
Mhm.
it doesn't sound annoyingly of its time.
Yeah.
Just like certain other things from around that same period. Human League's Don't You Want Me? Just heard that again the other day, and I'm going, huh, well, it sounds dated, but it sounds cool dated.
Yeah.
It sounds like, hey, this is what we could have been doing in the 80s rather than what a lot of bands did in the 80s with the same technology.
Yes. Yes, that's very true.
Yeah. And then you listen to Human League's Human and go,
Pretty much. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. That was boring. So, all
Yes.
right. Then we should probably not overstay our welcome. So,
No, we shouldn't. I think we're done here.
I think we're done here.